Hey, good morning. Forgive me, a few seconds late. I'm fixing my cup of coffee downstairs right now. And I got so terribly stuck up on a change I'm working on that grew way much larger than I intended, so I got stuck on it, and yeah. So, yeah. In libcurl we have well, we basically have transfers, right, and connections. So I don't know how to explain it even. We have curl easy handles and we have connections, and traditionally back in the old days a transfer could have a connection, and they would have and basically it all changed when we started supporting HTTP2, because nowadays many transfers can have or belong to the same connection. So internally we have this weird, and we have a link back from all connect data. All connect data structs, they have a link back to the transfer it belongs to. So the connection has a link to the transfer, which is weird, right? Since the connection has many transfers. So we need to keep that pointer updated all the time, and it's complicated and error prone, and we have problems with that all the time. So yesterday then it just struck me then why, when chasing one of these bugs, that I'll get back to you, because I think I need to fix the bug before I can do my huge change. But anyway, let me just run down and get my cup of coffee, and we'll get into some details proper. So that is, I have my kitchen downstairs, I have my home office here on the top floor of my house. Got my coffee now. So what I was doing, really, I was changing how we handle the. Let me just move around some windows. Where is my live terminal? Too many things here, I think, on my screen. Bam, there it is. So we have, as I said, we have the easy handle and we have connect handles. And when we introduced HTTP2, we started to update the pointer that points to the transfer. So we have to update that all the time, since if we do like 10 transfers on the same connection, and we constantly need to make sure that the pointer to the transfer is correct. And then yesterday I just got tired of that problematic implementation detail, and I thought, hey, let's reverse it and instead make sure that we link to the connection from the transfer instead, and we use the transfer as sort of the key pointer in many places in the library. So the transfer will either have a connection or it won't have a connection, but it's still the transfer, and that is what we are focusing everything around in libcurl. So, well, that would be cool. So instead of passing in 2 pointers everywhere, like the connection and the transfer, I would just switch so that we would rather talk about the transfer everywhere rather than the connection that we did before. How hard can that be? And to answer that question, I think we can do diff stat, and I think at the end we can see that well, it might not be hard, but it's a huge change. I'm on 2500 lines of change right now, and I'm not done yet, and let me show you how it looks like if I run a compile, and I'm doing it in from within Emacs like this. Bam, and you can see quite a few warnings still because I'm in the middle of fixing. And right, actually changed to a different Emacs instance now, since. So basically what I'm doing is changing like that. I have functions that, let me center it, they have these, they take the struct data, connect data input, and I'm changing it to instead do curl easy data, which is the pointer to the, well, the struct holding the transfer rather than the connection. A bit complicated, but I figured that would be possible. I think that turned out really, really big, so maybe I will just pause that for this stream for now and go check, see what kind of trying to find all my windows. Where are my windows? The right ones. And I'm bringing up the browser, and it is usually it. There it is. So yesterday I was working with these bugs. I think when I ended yesterday, I was still working with this race condition, and I fixed the problem with the shared connections between easy handles in different threads. So this is my fix, and when I now it all comes back to me. So when I worked on this fix, I pushed this pull request, which is actually rather small. It basically changes some of these associations, or stops fiddling with the association between a connection and a transfer, because they're not always as tight as this code says it is. So when I was working with that change, I pushed pull request, and it broke on Travis, and it broke on Travis only on a few specific builds, and that clued me in to find the problem, or not the problem perhaps, but a problem. So one of the build failures here we can see is in the it was only one build failure, but that was good enough, because that build failure is in the libssh build. It says in the description here, or that the C assignment is the configure command line option for configure when it builds this. So it builds with libssh then instead of libssh2. So that's a different SSH backend, and then it crashes. If we look at that particular build and scroll down, long, we can start from the bottom, because starting from the bottom is usually what we want to do, and because then we can see these test case failed here. So 618, 620, then scroll up to the 618 test. And 618, well, there were a few other, but 618 doesn't, well, there it says segmentation fault core dump. That's not a good sign, right? And then I went back, and that's when my chase down this rat hole started. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause my work on this monster. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going with this, but work in progress. Remove con data and use data con instead, which then sort of reverses the the dependencies. Data being our regular name for the easy handle, the transfer, and con being our widely used variable name for the connection, for the particular connections used in the functions. So I'm going to go back and do like this. Now we can see that I have done, well, that's the fix that I pushed the pull request. I did another tiny little change, but this one that I just pushed, committed, I don't want this in this branch, so I'm going to make another new branch and call it I'm going to call it transfer focused. That's and I'm going to merge this branch into this branch, but I'm going to rebase it. So okay, then everything is in that branch, and then I can go back to the other, then I go back to the connection easy attach branch, and I will remove my work in progress patch from this branch because it doesn't really belong here. There. And now I need to rebuild everything and see if I can reproduce the crash again with 618. And I learned that I should actually better pronounce which bug I'm using on them. So this is the pull request I'm working on. This doesn't really work then on, it crashes on this it crashes on libssh builds when I run test 618, and I'm going to try to reproduce the crash now, building everything. So libssh is a rather new backend for the SSH-based protocols in curl. We had libssh2 support for a very long time, as the only SSH-based protocol backend. But I don't remember. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that a bunch of Red Hat people brought the libssh-based backend. It's really good, so it's not. I'm not saying anything about the quality of that, but when I run this particular thing, it crashes in that backend, which of course don't like. So I'll run it with GDB instead, and we can see, I believe, right. So data is 0, a null pointer coming in here, and that's not really very good, right? So why does that happen? It's a disconnect. Okay. Let me just send out a tweet that I'm actually fixing. Fixing a null pointer crash in the SSH backend in curl live right now. Just tweeting out. I just remember that I didn't actually say anything about the stream on Twitter. And nobody said anything in the chat, so I guess you're all sleepy, maybe sleepier than me. I got stuck on this huge change yesterday for quite far too many hours. I spent half the night working on it and still isn't completed, and it doesn't work. Disconnect. Yeah, it's in the disk. Maybe I should just... frame 1. That's... So, why does it do like that? That's stupid, right? So first, let me do it like this. Proto P. And then we can do assert as we concluded yesterday, we should do asserts. More asserts is better. Morning and Merry Christmas. I was going to have my Santa hat, but I didn't find it. Well, my kids at least. My kids' Santa hats. Okay. So I fixed a bug yesterday, but it triggered another bug. The good part about this follow-up bug is that this only happens in the SSH, one of the SSH backends. So it would really it catches it in the assert now instead of crashing in another place, which I guess is a tiny step forward. But not very good. Right. I'm going to check how the other backend handles this situation. And they have lovely, similarly named functions. It seems to have the exact same problem. So So why didn't I get this problem with the other backend? Curious. Okay, one step at a time. Let's fix this first. So if I don't have, what do we need it for? Proto P. Okay, so this is curl disconnect. So we're about to disconnect a connection. Protocol specific cleanups. That makes it curious. What if I just, if we don't have the data pointer, what if we just leave it? That could be fun. Well, it seems we get stuck on something then. So if that happens, we seem to get stuck. But why do we get stuck? So we debug it again, set a breakpoint on libsH line 558. 558. Boom. Comes from disconnect function. Yeps. Oh, we'll call it again. Of course, because it's a state machine, so if it doesn't change state, it'll just keep going. So I need to change the state and say if there's no transfer, we can't close, we can't do anything else, we just end. I can try that. Usually all our connections need a transfer struct to do anything, really, so if it doesn't have any transfer struct left anymore, it can't do much. State. This is how it changes state. This is how it changes to the stop state. So if there's no transfer struct, that's a null pointer, and we should add something to the log too, at least for now. But we can't log because we don't have any data pointer. Arg. Okay. Try it like that. It's not wild to not know what this is, because this is really niche stuff. This is internal curl code debugging and testing and me trying to get things to work. So yesterday the bug that started this was then of course this 3391, this one. Which is a racy condition, so you should try that example. It creates 67 threads that each of them loops 11,000 times, and they're all downloading this URL, and that URL doesn't work. So it'll loop a lot, not do anything much, but it in 763.0 it crashes, and that's what this patch of mine, the 3400 PR, actually fixes the crash. Well, in most cases it doesn't fix it if you build with libSSH backend. So now I'm trying to get the libSSH backend to behave properly too, and I need to rebuild with the libSSH2 backend too after. If I just get this to actually do what I think it should do. Returned, no, that's still a crash, but I figured that's a different crash. Boom. Okay, so that's another. That's a free. On the free. Frame 6. This is the free. Why is that wrong? Looks correct. Invalid pointer. So it was not correct. But it's still in the disconnect. So I guess in this case it actually had a pointer to the data. So where are we? It came from this function. That's curl disconnect. Okay, so I'm a little bit lost for the moment, but I'll get back to it. I'm going to try to run it as, let's see, if I run it without, sometimes it's good to switch off, to switch off GDB and just, I can do it like this and see what Valgrind has to say about it. It doesn't say anything because my own memory system caught it before. Okay. Okie dokie, then back to another GDB. So, run. I very much like my little test suite setup that makes it possible to run this test case with GDB like this, because it's really easy to reproduce the crashes that happens sometimes. And I've learned to limit the backtrace command to a number of lines, like BT a number, to see the number of stack frames in the trace. working on a crash in the SSH backends. So is it already freed? No, it's a safe free is a macro that we use that actually also clears the pointer, so we know that it actually isn't actually free. I mean twice, because it clears the pointer after it has done this, but really weird. Well, not weird perhaps, but unexpected. What happens? Did I wrote B. I wanted B. I wrote P. So okay, I'm stupid. Okie dokie. So it gets to the. That's not good, of course. Disconnect. Some people suggest that it's wrong of me to say that I'm a hacker at times, or that I'm hacking on things, because people might take that the wrong way. But still, I don't care. I think I am hacking on stuff, right? So disconnect without. So if there's no pointer, it will not be good. So if it's yeah, but I don't send Mozilla anymore. But yeah, I actually sometimes I don't know. I'm go back and forth. Sometimes I try to tone down my use of the word hacker, just because yeah, the way some people, I don't know, misinterpret it. This is C. Very old style, traditional C89, C90C, so there's not even C99 for portability, and for me being conservative and old. So okay, disconnect. This is not good. So in the frame above, frame, where are we? Yeah, this is well, not like Python, but well, I mean, computer languages are all similar to each other, so if you learn one, you have an easier road to get to the next one. But I would say that C is a bit different than Python. Disconnect. Oh yeah, they are. I mean, you write loops and fors and ifs and variables and things that are similar. But in C you have pointers and things and no objects. Extract if dead, disconnected. Sometimes I might get a little bit distracted by all my different chats that are going on while I'm trying to actually debug something, say something at the same time. But okay, that's just the way it is. What am I going to do about this? I'm going to reconsider how I do curl disconnect. You can you can build curl with basically any C compiler you can think of. So it's, I mean, of course you use GCC or Clang or whatever, but since it is really old traditional conservative C, you can build it with all the legacy Unix compilers on, you know, HPUX or IRIX or AIX or and you can build it on Amiga or OpenVMS or even DOS. So you can build it with, that's why we stick to C89. So you can build it with on platforms everywhere with basically whatever compiler you have around. I would say that the most restricted thing when it comes to portability for curl is that you want at least a 32-bit CPU architecture, and you want well, almost decently close to POSIX API for sockets and stuff. And I mean for the TCP/IP stack. If you have that, porting curl to it is, I wouldn't say easy all the time, but it's pretty straightforward if you know your things. And we build curl regularly. I mean, even in the CI, we build with GCC and Clang and a few different compilers. Well, nowadays everything is, well, not everything is 32-bit, but most things that can have curl in them are 32-bit. But I mean, you can go Arduino or something that is smaller and won't be able to run curl. I've had some discussions with some companies that actually have very, very tiny memory requirements that actually have opted away from using curl just because curl is not the most slimmed library you can imagine. But of course, that's for a reason. So I do the disconnect. Should I do the disconnect at all if I don't have any transfer? Yes. Okay, so let's see what I can do. Even just this log line will not work if con data is null. Well, maybe it will work. It will just, I think maybe it'll just ignore. Where is it? It's called. Right. It won't crash, but let's see if I can start out just avoiding the crash and then see if I can polish the fix. The libssh, this is the libssh installation from Debian Unstable, and it's unfortunately it has some public functions marked as deprecated, but it is the latest one available in Debian. And yeah, I could get it from source and build it and then install it, but I do that for so many packages. So for some of the packages I'm just happy to be able to apt install it and be fine with that. So then I have to suffer with these deprecated warnings every time I compile. Crash, boom, bang. Oh yeah, it's the same thing. I didn't actually fix that. Free home dear. Why? I like how the 3 include files should be in this order and then there's 4. And I think that might be the reason. Let's see if that changes things. I have a funky macro setup that actually redefines the memory functions when built with the debug function. The debug is symbol enabled, so it'll use our own memory function layers on top of it that actually monitors the allocations and stuff to make sure that they are correctly done. Still happens the same way, but now tests, logs. It's the first 3. What? Where is that coming from? Oh, it's from the libssh. I get it. So libssh has this API and it returns an allocated string that we free. Oh, that is not a nice API. Let me Google that function. The libssh project unfortunately don't always document their functions the way I think they should. Like for example here, the canonicalized path null on error. Grr, so what do we do with this when we're done with it? Doesn't say, right? So in our case we free it, and I guess Jesus, I don't like this. So this is why it crashes now, because we have this particular free, which will make a... So this might be better. I'm leaving the printf there for now. That's why when you make an API for a library that returns allocated memory, you need to provide an API to free that memory as well. Because you don't know that the regular free that we are using can actually free the data. And that's particularly true for other operating systems. In this case, we can actually know that on Linux you can free it if it's allocated with a regular malloc. And it still crashes. Yeah, it's I don't know when it lags. I think it lags. Might be when other things is going on my computer as well, because it doesn't lag all the time, the video, when I rebuild. But maybe it does. Maybe I should just not use old cores when I rebuild at the same time when I stream. I suppose I could degrade the stream as well, sort of. It uses, I mean, this is 1080p in 30 frames, but okay. Where does it crash now? Same place. Free invalid pointer. Same. Oh, there was another free of that same. Oh, that's free in a lot of places. Not very nice, but okay. Note, this gets an allocated memory from libsys. Yeah, I agree that in general that is a problem when using C libraries, to sort of understand what to do with a pointer that you get back and how long you can use it and so on. So I agree that in C we need to always know things about the memory. And that's one thing I try really hard to make clear when I write the documentation for libcurl for different pointers and when we get data or set data using pointers. But documentation is really hard, so I really can't complain that people get documentation wrong, but it's because it's really hard to make sure that documentation is right everywhere. So I still get this crash. Well, not this crash, I think it's a different crash, but I still get a crash. Where is it now then? Now it's a different one in oh wow. maybe I need to go back one step here and reconsider what I'm doing. Yeah, if I do like this, if I'm just to make clean first, if I do it like this, if I do nice make and see if anything lags, I don't know. I suppose it could be better to do nice. I'm not sure it makes any particular difference. Yeah, it might be better. Yeah, so maybe I'll try to make sure that I do nice instead. I mean, I think for me, speed-wise, I didn't really notice any difference in the build speed. I mean, it runs pretty fast. I think that's one of the neat things with working with curl, that it's still small enough so that it rebuilds fast enough to not ever be a really big concern. It's more annoying when you have to rebuild rerun configure, because rerun configure takes like 10 times longer than rebuilding all the C code. Okay, still, so I suppose we get this because we have some other weird yes, cleaned it up. Log. What do we get from log? In the log directory, malloc consolidate invalid chunk size. That would suggest that we mess up some memory, right? Like, okay then. So let's do like this. I'm going to check out libssh and see what it does with. I mean, if it's not documented, we always have the code, right? So we go to libssh.org. No, we apparently don't. libssh source code. I can get it, browse it. Okay, let's browse it first then. Alright, this is an annoying API, or I mean way to browse things, but let's do it anyway. Source. I figure it should be SFTP, right? SFTP canonicalize path. What does it do? Zoom it a little bit. So canonicalize path. That's the function. Another code written by Nick. just in case we were wondering. So where is the return? Return, return, return. Lots of nulls. There is the C name down here. Return. Buffer unpack. Certainly looks like an allocation, but SSH buffer unpack, I guess. So I guess we get to the point rather quickly, but I should just clone this instead. Clone. Copy link. Git clone, and we don't like unprotected git clones like this, right? It should be secure connections instead. Source, and I wanted the function called, I'm trying to, what was it? New, okay. libssh source sftp canonic Jesus, canonicalize path. Here it is, SSH buffer unpack. It's in buffer.c. Yeah, it's not easy to follow this, right? Maybe this says returns. Not even this says what it actually does with the memory. Buffer struct. Sorry, going back to it returns. So what did we see? C name. It's the SSH buffer unpack. So it somehow gets the pointer from the var args in there. Not an easy way to figure things out. And this doesn't document it either. And it does a lot of different things. Blah, 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 blah. Is there a free function? SSH buffer free. Yeah, but that frees one of these SSH buffer structs. We don't get such a one back. Okay, dokie, that's home there. Back to the freeing of this. I mean, it's not impossible that they actually keep the memory for this string in the own managed. There's no documentation that says we should free it, so maybe we shouldn't. Maybe that is what screws everything up. But it's also an interesting question why you haven't seen this before, if this really is the problem. So I'm not sure where I'm going with this. I might need to backpedal a bit and start over. No, I didn't do nice now. Nice. I guess the real answer is to not rebuild everything while live streaming. But then what would the fun be with live streaming without revealing everything? And see, it actually didn't. It didn't. Valgrind skipped. Right. So we're not actually 100% sure this is fine. There's a reason it skips Valgrind for the SSH based protocol, and that's because we have had a long-standing OpenSSL related problem with Valgrind, since the old classic OpenSSH things, and that's particularly complicated when we're using SSH that are linked with SSL, OpenSSL. So I'm not gonna even try to fix that now. But this now ran the tests fine, right? So if I'm just gonna make sure that I actually built everything, and I did. And okay, but I had some other build failures, so now I'm going to switch over and check the other build failures and make sure that I can run all those that failed. Here's the old build that failed for me last night on Travis. And somehow, I'm not sure exactly how to, but usually when I check a Travis build, I want to check the last few lines, which is fairly annoying. But it says that these test cases failed. So I can copy just those test cases, go back to my tests here, and I'm running only those tests like this. Boom. And who knows, maybe they don't crash, or maybe they will crash. They all survived, and they managed to run. So some amount of success, right? And just need to clean this up and make a follow-up commit there and see if I'm a bit skeptic about this freeing thing, or not freeing. Exciting. Let's see what happens. This gets an allocated memory from well, that comment is now completely wrong, because gets an this gets memory from that yeah, but I think that's because then libssh must be hold on to this memory itself, since libssh has this handle anyway, so it can just keep the memory associated with that handle. So I guess that when I then clean up the handle later, it'll free that memory as well. But I think the most interesting thing is, why did it work before, right? Why haven't I seen this already? So No, I don't know. I don't know exactly where we're going with this, but could be a version change. Yeah, I'm not sure because I do. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. Libus's age, Libus's age and Libus's age 2, they're different. So I'm using this version, and I don't know how up to date that is, but I don't think it is very updated. Let me see again then on their web page. Where am I? Libus's age. I don't know why I have problems with their site. So right now, I don't know, but I'll ignore that for now. This gets memory from Libus H2 that we must not free, which is what the the idea that I'm working with right now. It might not be true in the end, but let's. I'm going to go with that for now and see what happens. Remove that. But. So since this skips val grind, I don't get a proper memory leak detection here. So I'm not 100% sure this is actually correct. But it's still, at least it removes the crashes. So skip disconnect without easy handle. Don't. It's always stupid to do 2 changes in one commit. Skip disconnect. Okay. Off it goes. So that means it'll fire up a new there. New builds on the CI. Oh, that was some debugging. Okay, do we have anything easier? Maybe not. But I think that's a pretty nasty bug in general, so it's good to get that done. I don't think I got any response on my comments here because I don't understand. On this bug 3396 he says we even get this blah blah blah, but yeah, that's assumed. We have a funny way that if you use capital I with FTP, that's the it makes a head if you do it on HTTP, a head request, and if you do it on FTP, it'll sort of pretend like do a fake HTTP response and output things like this as if it were HTTP. I've had a little note in the to-do since I guess 15 years or so that we should probably remove that again at some point. But yeah, you know about removing things. I bet there are like 3 users out there who think this is a great idea, and they will be upset if I would remove it. So it's also just easy to keep it, so it's there. Maybe one day it'll go away, maybe not. Of course, it depends on what people say. I don't think it hurts a lot, so. And I think this using this -I on FTP is fairly rare, so let's leave it there. Oh right, oh, that's a huge response on my comment for this. Let me explain with a picture. Client hello. Even though the packet is there, if it captures. The thing is, we output data that we get from this open SSL callback from my reading of the code that we don't hide this particular message, which could mean that OpenSSL isn't delivering this in the callback? Question mark. Sometimes it helps to encourage others to help out more. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. This obviously this guy knows his stuff, so if he reads the code and he knows TLS, maybe he could figure it out and help us fix it. Memory leaks in Wolf SSL threaded function, that actually landed. Fixed in 3397. Cool. And they were actually in particularly cool because I filed that issue with Wolf SSL and said, is there something we've forgotten here that we should fix? And they fixed it for me, so that was great, I think. I like when others fix problems. The more the merrier. Okay, and I have this silly little I found an unused function that yesterday when I was browsing around in the source code for other reasons. Well, I was browsing it for to see what I would do about another particular pull request, and then I ran into this little thing, and let me see here. This is the name of my branch. Sometimes I have so many branches I can get lost. So this is the branch I was working on when I did that, and the build was green and everything, so I'm just squashing them, my fix up, and here are the unused functions. removing 37 lines, inserting one. Closes 3401. Boom. And we push. Push, 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 push. Push. And remove the sometimes I just get confused. Okay, and I remove the local branch because having lots of branches is right, and it's closed, and we can delete the branch over there as well because now it's merged, and we're down to 29 pull requests. Rebuilding. Okay. Whew. I forget to use the nice approach all the time, so I guess you get the lag as a bonus if there is any. Doesn't matter. The important thing is the rebuild. Out of coffee again. So I was going to do the HTTP 0.9 merge at some point, but all the important builds are now green. I mean, the most important ones are the Travis ones and the AppFire ones. So, and this, I guess this is one of the black sheep in the CI family that marks build bots, and that seems to often cause issues. Yeah, I need some. It's too far away to go down to my kitchen and get my coffee. Well, I guess I could do something about it, but sometimes it's also just good to move around a bit too. It's just that it's annoying when I'm sitting streaming. But okay. Okie dokie. I'm gonna merge this. This is a rather big, adding 396 lines and removing 60. Mostly due to me adding a lot of tests and stuff. So this is like 10 lines of libcurl and 350 lines of unrelated, well, not unrelated, but not code for the library. So I'm fixing that one, and the 2873 has been around for a while. 3383. Are you ready? This is adding things. It's adding one libcurl option, and it's adding another command line option. Woo! And by doing that, I think we're actually reaching, and this is fun. It's always fun to add command line options, right? Because we have 219 of them before this merge. I just have one little doubt, and that's for the name of the command line option. So I'm actually considering I renamed the libcurl option to HTTP 09 allowed, just to make it spell out that it is about allowing 0.9 responses. But calling it just like this sort of might sound like we're asking for 0.9 and not allowing 0.9. So, should I rename it? I can rename it in a second in a separate commit if we really want to. or if all the people in the world just complain and argue about it, we can do that as if very many people will notice. And off we go. Kadoom. And I'm going to remove the local. Sometimes it's also useful to just garbage collect the Git because I get so many things just lying around. And we are off, and over in the browser it closed that one, and we can remove the remote branch as well. And we're down to 28 pull requests. And it announced the thing on the in the IRC chat. I wonder if it would be possible to announce it in the Twitch chat as well, but in the Twitch. But I don't think it's that important. If you want to see all the announces for pull requests and pushes, you can subscribe. And well, you can watch them in the IRC chat on Freenode, the curl channel, and they're in that. There's a Twitter feed too. Curl commit. That's user curl commits. It shows all curl pushes to the master branch in the curl repository. That's an awesome Twitter feed. It actually has a few users. I mean, apart from me, but like 3 others as well. So now it's time for me to go and do a coffee refill then, and consider what I'm going to work on for the next hour or so. I think we're... Oh yeah, I'm just rebuilding everything like that. Yeah, I know it uses IRC. I saw something about that. So it's actually probably possible to have the push bot actually announce the pushes in the Twitch chat as well. But I figured that it would be overkill anyway, because I think if you're reading or following the Twitch chat, you're following my actions on screen anyway. So I don't think you actually would need any that. So. Okay, I'm running off. 1.5 minutes on. Gonna get a coffee refill. I guess the builds are gonna take a while. LGTM basically always says everything looks nice, so I'm not sure it adds anything to our CI, but it's lightweight and it's fast, so doesn't hurt much either. So the others are gonna take a while. So I might go back to my monster patch thing and see if I can get somewhere. Might be a little bit too much. Where are my patches? What did I call it? I think I call it connection easy detach, right? No, that was the new one. That was the proper one. Well, I have worked on curl since curl started. Since I started curl, well, I did the first release of curl in 1998, but curl, I mean, the source code actually existed before that, because I renamed the project and it was the first release called curl, but the code I started working on what is curl today in 1996. So that would be a while. A while ago. Transfer focused. That's the name of it. I think I'll need to rename my branch, because that was a stupid name. I'm going to call it work in progress transfer focused, so I can see that the huge WIP thing. So this is a monster patch. I think this is the largest patch I've done in a long while for curl, and it doesn't do, I mean, ideally it shouldn't even be notable in the end, so it could be interesting. It should be notable in the way that code should be better. I mean, hope the plan is that the room for mistake should narrow in a little bit, so it should be easier to do things correctly. So I have like this. All right, I need to update a lot of different places in the code that do things like this. Copy to register to, one of my favorite things in Emacs. Copy to register so that I can have paste buffers on short names. Basically, I'm sure other editors have that as well, but I kind of like the way we do it in Emacs. And then I have a little shortcut to jump to the next compiler error. That's what I'm doing here. So I can just quickly update the different mistakes, or well, the monster patch changes so that we, in most places where we previously passed around a connect data struct, which is identifies a connection inside curl, I'm changing that to instead in most places pass in a curl easy handle which identifies the transfer. So instead of the connection, it identifies the transfer. That's a subtle change, and in most cases a transfer has a connection associated if the connection has been set up. It turns out to be a much better way to turn it around, so that we use the transfer to find the connection instead of using the connection to find the transfer, because connections can use many transfers. So one connection can use 100 transfers, but one transfer can only use one connection. Good that you like my GitHub bio. It's a very... I do some things on GitHub every now and then. So, well, actually, I think I do more on GitHub. I don't, since I mean, not working for anyone during day, it actually gives you more time to do things that you actually want to do that isn't work related. That's fun. Well, curl could be work related as well, and it might be even more coming up next year, but we'll see about that. Some things turn more complicated, rotating the direction of the structs. Well, mostly I don't grep around sources for finding functions, since I use I use make tags with, so Emacs can jump to the definition of functions by itself. So the thing about IDEs is that I'm very, very used to working with Emacs, so I tend to stick to Emacs. And I rather just write code today in Emacs than play around trying out different IDEs or editors. So I stick with what I know, basically. The thing is, this patch is a little bit too big to be for me to be comfortable with it, so I'm a bit scared that once I've done all these huge changes just to make it build and compile and everything, it won't work, and I will have to debug it, and it'll be a bit complicated to figure out exactly what I broke with this. But still, when I started it, and I might as well complete it just to see how, because I mean this would be a good change. I'm just not sure that I'm I'm able to actually pull through this change this way. We'll see. Yeah, they are horribly stressful, and another downside with doing this change, as I say, I'm really not sure this change is going to actually end up useful this way. And I mean, I'm also doing this change. I will basically break all other existing patches or pull requests that are out there, so they will all suddenly cause merge conflicts and stuff. So that would also be another reason why doing this kind of huge change might not be worth doing anyway. I actually thought I was going to be able to do it, I mean, not this massively big. I thought it was going to be slightly smaller when I started it yesterday, and then I just continued and continued, and it just grew and grew and grew, and I just spent hours on it, and it still isn't done. And as you see, this is going to take me, I don't know, a while more, possibly an hour or two more of this rather tedious, just fixing up all these tiny little things. So basically I'm changing, so all these functions that they work like this now. Well, previously they got a connect data struct pointer called con in here, but now we get the con pointer like this from the transfer pointer instead. It simplifies some things, but this huge change will not be fun to review, and yeah. Yeah, well, exactly, and they all have a common interface. All the protocols have a protocol handler struct, and the handler struct has a set of functions, maybe 10, that basically are the building blocks for each protocol. And when I'm changing sort of the relation between the connections and the transfers and make them the other way, it affects basically all protocols, and I mean everything that is related to protocols and connections have this relation somewhere basically. So if I want to change this, I need to change it in a lot of places, more or less every source code, libcurl source code we have. Maybe not every, but most of them, I guess. And I would say that's an argument for not doing it. I started with programming when I'm old now, right? So I started with programming when I bought my Commodore 64 together with my brother in 1985. And on the Commodore 64 things were different than they are today. But I quite immediately realized it was fun to program, so I started learning BASIC on it, and then I learned assembler, and then I just continued from there. Then I learned C on my first job in 1991, I think. And I'm still doing C programming. Get off. Okay, maybe I'll just stop this. I think it's too big. I'm getting annoyed. Blah blah. Well, actually, it's 400 less lines with this. Oh, tests. This is okay, right? It actually include one of the other changes, but I need to sleep on that. What to do about it? In general, we have this problem that when we work with connections, we update the pointer to the transfer all the time, because we when we pass a connection pointer to a function, the function doesn't know which transfer it is. Well, it has to know which transfer it is, but so it uses that data pointer in the connection struct to find the transfer, but so it's error prone to make sure that that pointer is correct all the time, and we run into problems with that constantly, and that was one of the bugs that I fixed the other day, or that one of these pull requests that I'm working on. So this disconnects. This pull request is exactly about that. So it just struck me that maybe I should just fix it once and for all. But maybe that's a little bit too big, or maybe I'll just keep working on that in the background for a while and see if I can figure out a way to make the transition smoother than just changing 4,000 lines. Yeah, I thought about that too. So yeah, I agree that I might be able to do that. It's sort of the changes also grew a little bit over time when I started to realize what exactly this change would mean, but that also made me reconsider this approach more. So I think I need to basically go back and have another think about how to do that, since I'm sure that nobody will enjoy getting to review that, even if not even myself, and I'm a little bit scared about all the debugging that I have to do afterwards. So I'll think about that in another night or two, and well, it's going to be Christmas holidays for me as well, so I'm not going to be very productive the next like 1.5 weeks or so. So I guess I won't be very productive on this patch either during those weeks. So maybe we'll see. I'll have that in the back of my head and see what to do with it. Warm coffee. I like the comment this guy did. Yeah, exactly. So if I could make it in a way that we could transition into better, that would be nicer. But I'm also a little bit scared about doing something that we can transition into and thereby having both approaches sort of at the same time. And I'm figuring having both would be even worse than what we have today. So, well, I need to think about it some more. So back on this bug, the bug 3386 here, and if anyone can read it and understand what the guy means, then I would be I would appreciate it. But because I don't, and I'm not sure even the bug reporter understands it. So he says he can't show us how to reproduce it, and he can obviously not show anything. So it repeats very rarely and chaotically. So yeah, I'm going to mark this with need more info or update. Basically just a sign for the reporter and for everyone that this is a bug that's not going anywhere right now until we have more data. Oh right, I saw an update to this, I think. Let's see what it says. 9 hours ago. A shorter reproduction program in Tornado. Yeah, so they can reproduce it in Tornado. Tornado being a framework in Python using PyCurl. So it's a lot of indirections above libcurl. So I think I'm going to not try to run this. I mean, it's cool that they're actually using curl in this, so I'm in support of that. But I don't think I'm going to be able to debug anything in this. Wow. So they can get away from it going to, and I think avoiding it by downgrading, that's basically because in 62 we default to HTTP2 for HTTPS connections. So I think it's HTTP2 related. So when it goes back to 61.1, it'll not upgrade to HTTP2. So there's something in HTTP2. And to be frank, I was sort of expecting this. I didn't really expect it, but I suspected that we might run into some sort of problems like this when we enable HTTP2 everywhere for every HTTPS connection. I figured we would get some dormant, latent bugs out in the light, and this is one of those. Even if I haven't fixed it yet, and we're not even sure it's actually libcurl, but more HTTP2 code exercised will, of course, torture our code more and reveal our problems more. Like that, the Linux Arc bug we fixed yesterday, right? I fixed that. It was when a stream was closed and we didn't really handle it properly. We need to use, right, I'm going to, this is the test code I wrote for them to see if it could reproduce the problem. It just uses multi-perform. Yeah. I don't know how do you pronounce it? The Arch Linux. We had this bug yesterday or whatever. I can just go back to it. It was this exceeding max file size. It wasn't really clear that it was about Arch Linux, but they triggered it with their Pacman tool, which is their package manager thing. And in their tool, they're using libcurl then in the backend. They set this option that limits download. I don't know anything about their functionality in their application, but they said that they reproduced the problem they saw by using this option that limits. It's an option to tell curl to don't download this resource if it's bigger than Y, and if it's bigger than that, it just returns an error and said too big, won't download. And there was a problem in HTTP2. Well, there is a problem with 7.63.0 to do this with HTTP2, because even it will notice the size and it will reject the download, but then the next download on that same connection, HTTP2 then often using the same connection, the second transfer would then hang. Right, and I think that's actually a bug that's been in curl, I suppose, since forever, since we implemented HTTP2. But again, one that was triggered by us going to HTTP2 now by default for HTTPS connections. So they got it then immediately with 7.62 because that's the first one that they used that automatically went to HTTP2. With NPN, as we can see, that's sort of interesting. Oh well, it doesn't matter. We fixed that bug yesterday. Boom, and I merged it 18 hours ago. So I'm working then to fix this race. And this is the bug that I was working on when I ran into this libssh problem. So hopefully my fix and the libssh thing are all good, and then I can merge this. I mean, maybe before Christmas. And I have another little thing. I have an ongoing discussion since a long while. Maybe over here. I'm not the only one working on these things that I'm talking about here. Since, I mean, curl is a big project, right? We can see it starred almost 12,000 times, forked almost 3,000 times. So it's not just me, but you will see that I do a lot of the changes in curl. I do a little bit over half of all the... I've authored a little bit over half of the commits this year. But there's a lot of other people involved helping out. So this author wants to merge a feature that adds another option for a local address. And he's been working on it for a while. This started then in 2017 with this pull request, and he has posted patches for this before. So this is a rather long ongoing discussion on this feature that he wants to merge, and the reviewing and getting things tested and working, and me asking things about the feature, not quite understanding everything about it. Right, so that's where we are. And I asked the question 18 hours ago, he responded 17 hours ago. Basically, we already have an option to tell curl to bind the local end of a socket to a interface or IP address. So I've been trying to understand what difference this makes in comparison to the existing one. How do you want to bind differently? And I think he's answering this question right now, or in this comment. So I guess the answer is that if you want to bind to an interface and an IP address, and we can't do that currently with curl. Okay, that's a good answer. Interesting. I'm not sure how to... One of the problems with this patch, I think, is that it adds an option that sounds very similar to an existing one. So it really adds confusion to a user who would read the documentation and not really understand which option would you use when and why. Why would you pick one before the other and so on. So since it's so related to the existing one, I'm more inclined to think of ways on how to incorporate this feature into the existing one. Maybe we could just tweak the existing one to support this new use case as well. And yeah, maybe we can, but we would have to. Well, this is a runtime option. This is a new libcurl option, right? So it is this curl opt local adder. So you would use that in a you would actually use this in your application to say that I want to do a transfer over this specific network interface using this specific IP address as a source address in the connection setting that I set up. Well, I mean, this is a really narrow use case. I guess there's going to be like 2 users of this. So it's not going to affect the masses, but I think this guy, I don't know him personally, but he's been around the curl project for a long time. He apparently runs a system where he has thousands of network interfaces, and apparently then a lot of different IP addresses on each of these network interfaces. So he has a particular setup, and a particular setup that the existing options don't satisfy. So I'm then saying, oh well, of course I didn't even understand or realize that this sort of use case even existed or could exist. But he's persistent. He has a use case. He has some sort of application, and he runs his local patch since years back. So I trust him that the use case is there. So I'm trying to see what we can do to align our views on how this feature should be done, to make sure that our users are happy, and he is happy, and I am happy, and the code is readable and understandable and so on. So it's a bit tricky. I'm still not really sure how to deal with it. But this answer did bring me some clues. But this isn't a Daniel, did you? Oh, you mean Dan? That's that Daniel commented on it. This is actually a Ben who actually authored the pull request. This Daniel is not me. That's another Daniel. We're actually quite a few Daniels in the project. But this Daniel is Daniel Gustafson. He's another Swede, so he's been involved quite a lot with curl recently. You can find that he's doing a bunch of reviews and pull requests, and he's also in the chat room if you. So, and the number 4 committer or so in the curl project is also another Daniel. So we're Daniel intensive in this project. Oh, right, at Blocket. So you worked at Blocket. My brother worked at Blocket once upon a time. though. I think I'm going to let this stream be it for today, because I just ran out of steam for what I want to do on this. I'm pretty happy that... Oh, right, I didn't mention that, but my timeout fix that I also landed on the stream, I don't remember if I did it yesterday or the day before. Maybe the day before. It doesn't matter, but I landed a fix for my... I fixed the timeout, and then I got OSS fuzz reports. I actually got 5 OSS 5 reports that our fuzzing timed out. But yesterday I got confirmation on all those issues from OSS fuzz. Is a bit annoying because it keeps emailing. So every time it hits something, it emails me. It emails, and it tend to get a lot of different hits for the same error. So I think I got 5 or 6 emails about the timeout problem, and then I fixed it, and then I got 5 or 6 emails again that the issue was fixed. So the fuzzers are happy again, keep fuzzing away. So yeah, and I would say that timeouts, fuzzing timeouts, they are on the, benign side of fuzzing problems. Even if, of course, getting timeouts in the fuzzer is not good because it prevents other fuzzing to happen, but still. All good now. Yep. This is Friday before Christmas. It's 21st of December. I'm not gonna stream anything during next week, and probably not... I'm not gonna do any other stream until the new year, because I'm going to celebrate Christmas with my family, and then I'm going to travel for a week, and then so on. So, but I'll schedule something to happen probably the first work week of January, and maybe I by then know what to do with myself next year. Employee-wise and work-wise and stuff. I think I enjoy not working a little bit too much. I do a lot of curl things, but at some point I think I need some food on the table as well. Anyway, thank you for watching and chatting. It's fun doing this, so I'll do it again. I'll set up a little event in my Twitch thing, and I might do some random ad hoc at some point as well. See you later. Bye.